Okay. Um, Good evening, everyone, and also good morning to the rest of the globe. We're here again for another live stream on your plus smorgasbord. And we do this every Sunday with friends from the TVP group of regional coordinators. And we're hoping to speak again with Clifton Barnes of TVP Georgia and John Tan of TVP Malaysia. Yep. So in the meantime, just another quick update on our ongoing fundraiser for the Andaya family. We're still at 7,000 something for our proceeds, and we're still quite far away from our target of 18 to 20,000, which will be our budget for fishing boats. Secondhand, sturdy. I mean, India sturdy fishing boat that we will hand over to Adik Lemon and Dia's family so that they could use it for fishing, of course. Their livelihood. So, well, we want to thank all the people who've donated so far, and the people at Z Compound, where we hold these monthly fundraisers. And the next one will be on Friday, September 28th. And also prior to that, September 26th, Wednesday, well, my friends and I will be having or doing our first gig there. And it will also include this fundraiser for the Andaya family. And we're gonna sell merchandise like all stickers, band stickers, and I don't know what else. Yeah, maybe some tape bands by my band bank. So we hope you guys keep joining us on those dates. We'd also like to announce that on the 29th, Saturday, plus, Z Compound will be celebrating its 9th anniversary. So it's 3 days of fun, music, food, and drinks. It's got a celebration. It's a 3-day stream. So we hope to see you there. So still waiting for our friends. See if they see my messages. So while we're still waiting, let me pull up the video that I shared with you guys last time. So you could review maybe. What's here? Let me find that. It's one of my favorite travel restaurant videos. It's here. This is really trying gonna screen share this one. There's really waiting for friends. Is indulge well. Hello, Cliff. Hello, Cliff.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey,
Hey.
good morning.
So, uh, I think David's here.
David.
Yeah.
Cool.
Where is he now? I think it was close. Okay. What happened to your camera? So I was just sharing this video of Jacques. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this.
Say that again.
I was screen sharing the video, the Jacques Presto video that that I like. It's one of my favorite Presto videos actually, and he's just talking to people in his hotel room, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Very long.
Yeah, just turn on my camera.
We'll wait for David. I think he was trying to get in. So, how's work?
It's tough. It's a lot to learn and a lot of.
Are you muted?
Am I muted?
You're in. Hello?
I shouldn't be.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Did my sound go off?
Yeah.
Oh, I was moving screens around. That might have done something.
So you don't have work today?
No, I'm just Monday through Friday right now. But that's going to change after I get some more experience, I think. So we'll see.
Would you like to see a few minutes of this video and maybe discuss where it's going? It's
Yeah.
well, yeah. Oh, I think I forgot to share the sound. But did you hear any sound when you?
No, I haven't heard any sounds yet.
Maybe people were just looking at the video without the sound. So anyway, let's see.
And saying, if some guy makes a new carburetor in his garage and sells it to General Motors, they say, and now General Motors brings you, like General Motors did.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Okay. So inventors in the future will be taken care of like everybody else. They'll live well, drive the best cars the country knows how to turn out. There'll be no junk equipment that breaks down. Because if it breaks down, it's a burden on society. It's a burden on resources. Do you understand that? So by making, if you drive a Mercedes or some expensive car, and he drives a beat-up old Volkswagen, if his brakes fail, you die. So we don't want any old cars on the road. An old car weighs as much as a new car, so we reprocess it. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
Guy says, "Oh, you guys are very nice." No, not we're nice. We don't want anything detrimental out there. So we turn out the best equipment and make it available for everybody. Not because we're good Joes. If you work with the less than the best, you hurt people and yourself. Do you understand that? So kids will have any kind of books free of charge available, made available. Because the smarter the kids are, if they read Jack and the Beanstalk, it's not extension. If they read Cinderella, where she touches a white mouse with a wand and makes it into a horse, you know, if you bring up kids with that kind of shit, they can't be extensional. Or if you say, "Do you run faster than Billy?" Billy could be sensitive. You understand? So what if you run faster than Billy? When I was a kid in school, kids used to walk over me and says, "I can run faster than you." I said, "You can probably run twice as fast as me." So they would put so what? That's competition. It doesn't do any good. And then there's a guy with a football that runs through the field, and everybody likes sports.
Yeah.
It's the same fucking story over and over again. Nothing new. You're running with a football, and the people tackle them. As long as they keep you occupied with bullshit like that, you don't move forward. In the future, there's no game that's constant. It's always growing. So when you play tennis against yourself, you get better. And you don't try to get better to beat the other guy, you try to improve your judgment. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
Now, if a person is exceptionally creative, very inventive, we put him out in school to teach other kids how to invent. Because he has a method. See, I can teach anyone anything unless their hands are broken or their brain is damaged. I used to work with 50 kids. They'd all get 100. There were no variations in grade. Because I worked differently. But if you try to teach kids how to draw, and they look at the other kids drawing, if it's much better than theirs, they don't want to play that game. So I have a partition. And I tell each kid is doing well. You're doing very well. And they all move up slowly. Then in about 3 weeks, they're all good. Then I take away that thing. Yeah. See, you have to know that if I say to you, "Why can't you be like your brother if I'm your father?" He cleans everything up and you leave everything around. So when your brother falls down the stairs, you got a grin on his face because he's been mistreated. So you never, when you raise children, hold up one kid as your favorite. Then you make jealousy and envy. When you give kids grades in school, I give you an F for failure, he gets an A. He says, "I got an A." And everybody in school knows, what grade did you get? So there you get bad feelings. All wrong. You never grade people. You upgrade those that are behind.
Yeah.
You use the kids that know how to do things faster. Now, if you ask people, how do you become creative? They don't know. We know.
Yeah.
So we make everybody creative.
Oh, let's pause that for a while. Oops.
It's a good one.
Yeah, I mean, this is really my one of the, I think this is the top videos I like of Fresco.
Yeah, this was when he was.
Discusses a lot of topics here, including participatory democracy, even oh, it's that famous French guy who's considered a Nostradamus. Yeah,
Nostradamus?
yeah, we discussed that here,
Yeah.
including the Immaculate Pig.
The Immaculate Pig, yeah.
So we heard him talk just a while ago about what do you call it again? When things break down. Your schedule.
Planned obsolescence.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also creativity, how to teach people or kids to be creative, and basically the education education. It's not how we should go about upgrading everyone, ourselves, helping everybody improve on their skills and knowledge of things.
Mhm.
So this is really like creativity at the core of things, and coupled with being objective or rational. So he said he could teach anyone anything, so long as his brain's intact, the hands are intact,
Yeah,
and he can solve anything that's, anything physical. Any phenomenon that's problematic can be attacked or approached physics wise,
yeah,
See, so if you're made of matter and you're substantial, how can you even begin seeing or touching, sensing something that's some metaphysical idea, so that's that's where we're at, as a humanity. So we're
yeah,
born into that, indoctrinated into that kind of understanding of the world. So our problem begins there.
yeah. He was talking about competition in
Also,
the beginning of
yes,
that, and his views on culture, really, because it's sports that he mentioned. He was talking about how,
for society in general, right?
yeah, well, sports is a big reflection of most societies and most people's values on competition.
Mm,
And his views were that competition should be something that's done for a reason, to improve on something. The goal shouldn't be one person or one group of people beating another,
mhm.
because that doesn't progress society in any way. That doesn't make anything better. You're doing the same things, you're just refining them over and over with different techniques and people. But the goal is not to do something better for the world or to improve anything in nature. It's not to help people. The goal of refining that technique and getting really, really good at something like basketball or football in modern world is solely to beat another group of people. Right. And that reflects the tribal nature of how the world is formed right now. What was that?
And people make money out of winning,
Yeah.
and it's like the business strategy also, make
Yeah.
money out of beating somebody in business and making a sale,
Yeah. Sports is big business
Oh,
because it gets a lot of attention. Right. And that's why advertising is there. It's there
yes,
to get
they
your
they
mind
have
onto something.
sponsors,
Yeah.
sponsored by big brand names.
Yeah. So it's not to say that it's bad or that people are bad people for doing this.
Doing it, yeah.
It is what it is because that's how people were raised. This is a reflection of environment on people. And just about everybody is like this because they were raised in this environment with sports and competition. And
No
the whole
exceptions, no
goal,
exceptions,
huh?
no exceptions.
Very few exceptions.
I mean, like, we still are stuck here, so we go for products that we think are the best products and stuff. So we keep on buying the same brands. See, and if we think it's a product made by NASA, for instance, or Tesla, or Apple, so we go for those things.
Yeah. And by the way, I'm not legally representing the Venus Project. I'm a volunteer, so this appearance may or may not precisely reflect the views of the Venus Project. That is my disclaimer. But yeah, people associate certain brands with certain quality, and they also see it as a reflection of them. Right, brand loyalty is very focused on in industry because they want people to associate their brand with something good. They want to think like, if you wear this brand of clothes, you're this kind of a person. If you drive this kind of a car, you're this status of person. And it can be just quality. If you can afford this brand, it's a really good brand and they make high quality products that last. It can be any combination of those things all together. So when you have, Abercrombie and Fitch clothing, and you have all these male models that look chiseled and, perfect.
Yeah.
And these young women, and it goes with all kinds of things, makeup, cosmetics. It's a lifestyle thing they're trying to project onto people. It's advertising to make them want their product, even though they don't need their product. That's the whole goal of advertising. That's where public relations came from. Right.
But all these products, break down. Like
yeah,
they wear out.
Of course. Yeah, some things can be precisely engineered to wear out. The more complicated and technological they are, like a printer, for instance, the more they can be planned, engineered to break down or just flat out stop working via software.
Yeah.
Right. With a printer, you've seen that documentary film, the light bulb conspiracy.
Oh, not yet.
Oh,
Light bulb.
That's one you're definitely going to want to see. It's kind of an old documentary now. It starts out.
Is it on Netflix? Yeah.
No, it's on YouTube though.
Okay.
Okay, so what it's about is it starts out with a example of the printer, but the main part of the film towards the end, I believe, is showing that there's a yearly event that goes on in this town in California at the fire station where the firemen work. This light bulb they celebrate this light bulb burning because it's an old light bulb that's been burning for like 100 years, over 100 years. And it's not like real bright or anything, but it's one of those old style light bulbs that you see sometimes in restaurants now. The ones that want to look vintage, you can see like the
tungsten
filament. You see the filament. Wow,
it's made of tungsten, right?
Maybe, yeah. Well, the light bulb, they went through like dozens and dozens of materials before they found one that would not burn out and would last, right? Well, this one is one of the originals that they first discovered. And it's dim, it's like, you could tell like in the old days when they first made light bulbs that you didn't have really bright rooms. It was like a little more than candlelight,
Oh, yeah.
but it still was working. It's at this train station and it's been burning constantly for like over a century.
Wow.
And the purpose of that, showing that, was that light bulbs now last 2 years, or
Yeah.
the incandescent ones before these new ones came out. Now we have LED light bulbs, and those I think actually do last like tens of thousands of hours. But for many decades, and for my life, when I was growing up, there were no LED light bulbs. There were no compact fluorescent ones either. The light bulbs that are in offices, the really long tubes, those are fluorescent ones.
Yeah, I think I've come across Fresco talk about one of his innovations regarding light bulbs and fluorescent lamps.
That just reminded me of
Where he coated that thing with something fluorescent, actually. So I think, yeah, he's got like many innovations that were pirated by these companies. So
yeah, Jacques invented a lot of small and big things. And one thing that he said he did was, and his approach to a light bulb like that, like the fluorescent long tubes, is he looks at it and sees, why are you shining light in all directions when you only want the light to go down? Right? So there's all that wasted energy, that wasted light.
Yeah.
So he developed a way to reflect the top part of the light bulb so it doesn't go up into the panel, it just shines down. And I don't know if it was just that, or if he actually designed a light bulb that only shines down, but that would be the best way to do it, probably. But
and also, like, of course, he mentioned like, I don't know if he mentioned in particular fluorescent walls in the designs, but he was saying, you can choose which color you'd like your walls to glow in, something like that. So he was actually saying, yeah, we could do something like that. He actually said something like he create a weapon out of clothing or something, but he was maybe commissioned somehow sometime, and he just didn't, or he did, he could do something like that, but he would not, because that's it's dangerous, or it would kill people. So he's really really talented. He's learned a lot along the way. That's the point.
yeah. But going back
Yeah.
to the light bulb thing, I also wanted to talk a little bit more about dome houses, because we were on that for a little while and we never got to really get deep into it, and I still have my book here. But the light bulb conspiracy film shows that planned obsolescence is an actual field of study. It's a part of engineering. And the first part of the film shows that this person bought a printer and it suddenly stopped working. And he didn't want to buy a new printer. He wanted to fix the printer, right? So he went online and found some
schematics.
Well,
Schematics are the source codes.
Well, he went and found these discussion groups, these boards where people talk about this, and he found somewhere that there was some software that would unlock the software or change it in the printer because the printer had been designed to stop working in the software after like 200 prints or something like that.
Wow.
At a certain number, it stops working. And then you take it to a shop and they go, oh, this is an older printer. It's going to take a lot more money to fix it.
So buy a new
You might
one.
as well just buy a new one, right?
Yeah.
And people do it by the millions.
Mhm.
So it showed that all you needed was this patch for the software that modifies it, turns that off, just that part of the code, and then it started working again. Same old printer, same old everything. And now that we have a software driven world and we're very high tech now, you can really engineer things a
Oh,
certain way.
Oh yeah, like digital ones, digital technologies, just
Yeah.
program them. As long as it has they have chips in them.
Hmm. Yeah.
So like
Which
we
almost
have
everything does
we have
now.
like a Wi-Fi printer here. So I'm
Yeah.
expecting this to break down at some point also. So it's all
Mhm.
about the software.
Yeah, there's now chips are, you've heard of the chip shortage, the semiconductor shortage around the world.
Wow.
Well, there's levels of different chips. There's some that are really complex and powerful, like the ones in your phone and the computers we're using. But there's a lot of less complex, less advanced chips that go in a lot of electronics. And they're in your car. There's a lot of them in your
Yeah.
car. There's a lot of them in TVs. There's a lot of them in appliances like your refrigerator. They have smart refrigerators now that are Wi-Fi connected.
Yes, and smart sockets,
Mhm.
outlets or
Yeah,
extensions. So
yeah,
well, there's a whole lot of fear involved there. When people think about technology taking over or being hijacked or uh,
yeah. Give me just a sec.
or hacked. Yeah.
I don't know if that improved anything, but my lights were off and saw that it was pretty dark. That might help a little bit too. It's 10:40 in the morning here. Sun's coming in though. It's a nice day out. It's a beautiful day. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, people basically old people, traditional people, are not so techy, and of course they fear what's new, and even the young ones also have been influenced by all these movies, of course, and so of course technology can be hacked, can be made to it can be used in a bad way, right?
Yeah,
It's just the
absolutely.
nature of society. So what has to change here? It's not the technology, it's just people's values. So how do we
Yeah.
do that?
Change values,
Mhm.
experience.
Experience. But what if the environment stays the same, so you experience the same things, or just the environment just gets worse and worse? So the education you get is just subpar or getting worse. So it's
Well, yeah, go ahead.
you can never get your hands on what matters most, in terms of information you need really to better your life and others' lives, other lives. So we need to change society, but we need a number of people to accomplish that. Yeah. But the looks of it, it's really a Herculean task.
A Herculean task. Yeah.
Yeah. So do we need like? So the plan was really to put out a or release a like a movie or something, but the TVP has already released how many documentaries and
Two major documentaries and a bunch of short film or a bunch of short videos.
but there's
One
a lot
is-
to go around. And,
Yeah.
well,
There's-
there's always that conflict between us wanting to transition into a better world, and but we need to do better and better here in this world, in this society, to be able to transition. So we need to support this system by working hard and by earning more to be able to finally leave this behind. So it's kind of,
Yeah.
like the things you do, you invest on. That's quite anti what's the term now?
Which one about investing?
Yeah, because we plan on getting rich to finally get rid of money. So
Yeah, investing is a way to get financial freedom.
yes.
That's why people invest, and in our cases, we're trying to free our time up so we can do what we want with our time instead of it being controlled by money, right? And for a volunteer like what a TVP support coordinator does, that would be their own personal life as well, just like anyone else, but they would also want to help further the aims, the proposals of the Venus Project, which is to improve society, to make society more sustainable, to help improve nature, to make the world more sustainable in essence, to do the things that Jacques Fresco was talking about. And it starts with educating people and raising awareness that there is such a thing to begin with. See, before I saw the Zeitgeist films and learned about this, and before anybody did, there was no idea really that you could actually change the operating system of the world, so to speak. We know about computers now and phones and how they run off of operating systems. Well, nobody thinks the operating system of the planet is also a thing. They think the world is as it is because that's the nature of humans. That's the way it has to be. And that we're progressing, and that this is the result of years and years of progress, and that this is the way to do it. This is the blueprint. You have countries and you have big businesses and small ones all competing, and they're all trying to make money, and they're all trying to survive because there's not enough to go around. So this is the best way to run things, and this is how we're going to get rid of poverty. This is how we have to do it because people are greedy. So you got to find a way to sort out the haves and the have-nots, right? This is the way to do it. But Jacques Fresco came along, and with his experience and his influences, his grandfather was a big influence, and his experience going through the Great Depression affected him greatly, and his travels around the world and his experimentation and all of his ideas and the books he read. For whatever reason, he came up with an idea that was a dramatic shift away from that, which is like taking someone who has an idea about, say, transportation, and instead of driving around riding a horse, you get on this thing with wheels and you drive it around, and it goes way faster. You know, it was that radical compared to the way society works today. And people have all the same misgivings about it, you know, like with the car. People were against cars because it's going to get rid of their horses when this first came out, you know. People were anti-car because they thought, well, what are we going to do without horses, you know? And it just goes to show that you are a product of your environment. You're affected by your experiences. The way you perceive the world is a direct reflection of your environment. And it also affects your values. So this whole idea of changing the operating system of the world is a huge change. It's a huge shift, but it's one that is almost inevitable if we want to live in a sustainable society. And he didn't think of it in terms of his city or his state or his country. He thought of it in terms of the planet, because he was a very a big thinker in terms of the concept. He was big in terms of seeing humanity as one species, and the world is one system supporting that species. But he saw all the species, not just humans, right? Because no matter what country you're in, you need plants, you need trees, you need animals, you need insects, even though we don't realize it, right? I'm getting into a lot of different things here, but the world is a system. If you start pulling threads out of a knit blanket, eventually it's going to unravel, right? Pull one out, you won't notice. Pull 10 out, you might not notice. Pull 100 out, you're going to start to notice. That thing's going to unravel. And that's kind of like the web of society, the web of of nature. You know, it's kind of an example of that. And the more it starts to fall apart, the faster it happens, right? Because now you're missing all of these pieces that were essential for everything working. When humans arrived, we were just hunter-gatherers. We were literally scraping off the land, trying to survive off of roaming around, finding berries and plants and tubers and vegetables and fruits that we could find, and eating insects and killing an animal once in a while. That's how we survived. But we figured out better and better ways of doing things. And the planet was highly, highly balanced in a way, nature-wise, because it had billions of years of evolution to balance itself out. And we were just another piece. We were a smart piece, but we were essentially roaming around like the animals, fishing, hunting, finding whatever we could, moving throughout the seasons based on where the food's at. You know, you might go somewhere in the summertime and then go somewhere else when it got cold, where it's warmer in another time of the season. And your diet would have to change, your habits would change. So things were intricately balanced. But before we settled down and figured out how to build cities and towns and villages, and we got a hold of the techniques of farming. Once that happened, things started changing. We became less nomadic, more stationary. We started farming, learning how to control nature in a way to where we could have a abundance of food, where we could store food. We now had grains that we could put in baskets and store them for a season and not have to keep moving constantly. So slowly we became this species that affects the environment, right? It started with just a field, growing some rice or some wheat or something like that. And once we knew that we could plan our food and affect and select certain foods to grow and control, that evolved into what you see today, which is a society. I'll stop here in a sec, I'm talking a lot, but we affect the environment far more than any other species that's ever lived on the planet, for better or for worse. And we've created abundance for ourselves and much control, but it's come at a big cost. And that cost is many things, but we all know what the environmental problems are in the world, right? You don't need me to tell you that there's oil spills in the ocean, there's forests, rainforest even disappearing, thousands of acres every day. There's climate change, the biggest one of them all right now, because that can change everything. And there's
industrial waste, basically.
Yeah, huge amounts of waste building up. The climate change is causing oceans to rise, which is a whole nother problem. The climate change is causing the polar ice caps to melt to do that. And that's causing fires, that's causing floods in places where there shouldn't be floods. Last summer, there was floods in Europe, which I don't know. Have you ever heard of floods in Europe in your life?
Yeah.
No.
Well,
There's been
not really.
fires increasing in Western US, where I'm from, for years. It's getting worse. The Colorado River now is basically a trickle for part of the year in the summer, I believe. It's a huge river that used to, that's what created the Grand Canyon. There's times where it's barely a river now. Lake Mead, I think that's in Arizona, that's dropping like 30, 50 feet or something like that. There's massive drought. And when that starts happening and the atmosphere changes like that, you start to see stronger and stronger hurricanes and tornadoes, because now the planet's heating up, right? It's only 1.5 degrees or so, but it's heating up.
Wow.
And all that
We have to-
temperature.
Well, they say we have to keep the heat index within like 2 degrees.
Yeah, the goal is to keep it below 1.5, I believe. But I think it's basically there already. And it could go to 2 or 2.5, like in our lifetime. And they're just talking about, see, here's another good example, when they talk about climate change and the temperature raising 1.5 degrees, you're like, oh, it was 5 degrees warmer yesterday. I didn't really care. What's that going to affect? No, they're talking about the average temperature, not of your city or at your house, the average temperature of what?
The Earth.
Yes, the planet. Okay. So if the entire average temperature of the planet goes up 2 degrees, that means every square foot of atmosphere of air that you breathe has gone up a little bit, which means the places where it's hot, it's magnified. It might be 20 or 30 degrees hotter. The places where it's cold, it might be magnified colder, right? Because all of these balanced things that were here when we showed up, now they're being thrown off. Now things are shifted because we disrupted it, right? It's easy to disrupt if you're changing the chemical composition of the entire atmosphere, right? It's very finely tuned to a state where we were evolving into. And we didn't have any automobiles, we didn't have any industrial waste. We weren't burning fossil fuels, basically.
But if you come to think of it, of things like really simultaneously moving or affecting one another, you're not really special in this in the scheme of things, right? But it appears that you're really the culprit, the top culprits of climate change. Although, of course, you know, the way we've made sense of our experience of life, the way we've coped with life has sort of booming around. And these are ill effects of our actions, trying to cope, trying to survive. We have to change our ways as
Yeah.
as a humanity. So, but if we keep on, if we retain this kind of system of business, like, because we think that we can just out of nowhere, like, add value in terms of currency to products, like magically. Where do you get your jacked up price of 5 pesos or $5 per item? Like, where did that come from? So we just keep on raising the prices of goods and out of nowhere. So magically we create profit, we create money out of thin air. And for how long have we been doing this? Like 100 years now? Industrialization was, or the advent of money, when did it start?
The advent of money?
Yeah. Like, it's been here, I don't know, like it started with gold, silver, I don't know, and the other forms of coins, or
Well, money's been around, I think, at least 5,000 years.
5,000 years.
I was just gonna look that up to be precise, but it started out not as even as gold. It was
So you see, the
seashells
whole
and stuff.
the whole point here is that, basically the society is based on, or is founded on this idea that, it's really metaphysical kind of thinking and understanding of the world. Like, like faith, like, you don't have like a substantial, I don't know, backup. You don't have backup for something. You just say, okay, I can price this at $35, 35 pesos, and that's it. If you want to be screwed over, you buy it. You agree to that system. So, and this goes on and on. See, and we create this effect on the environment. This of the way we go about life. So, and the way, because we understand the world a certain way, and it's quite old. This understanding is outdated. And it's really caring about the environment is not enough. Not it's just too shallow. Well, it's good, we all start somewhere. It's not enough to change society, as Chuck would also say. Yeah, it really has to be this thing called cerebral animal. It's the overhauling of our minds and understanding. It's just really worldview, understanding of the world in physical ways, meanings.
Yes.
But can we go back to the light bulb conspiracy? Is there more
Yeah.
for you to share about that?
Yeah. While I'm talking, I'm gonna try and look that up on YouTube. But yeah, this film showed that planned obsolescence is a field of engineering, and it's been going on for decades and decades, over 100 years. And from what Fresco said, they teach engineers certain parts of planned obsolescence. They teach them to make things break down or wear out at a certain time. And the reason for that is the more important thing. The reason for that is to increase turnover, which increases sales, right? If you make something that lasts a lifetime, you can't sell that thing to the same person. You have to find a new customer, right? So if you have a car that lasts,
Which is also why overpopulation is good for business.
yeah, it is good for business. Because the more consumers you have, the more things you can sell to them. It's really simple.
Yeah.
So the whole system essentially is based off of growth, the one we live in now. It requires the economy to grow. If it doesn't grow, then everything looks bad. It's all based on the numbers. So,
or
you need,
money changing hands, right?
Yeah, you need more money to be produced and change hands every year,
Because
or else
we can keep population at a certain level, but then we can increase the total money still,
Yeah, you need to have consistent growth, or else the numbers don't look good And then that causes fear, uncertainty, and doubt about how the future is going to be with our financial system, right? We're going through that in a big way right now. It's been in a big lull. We're in a official recession, financial recession right now. I believe if you have 2 consecutive quarters of retraction or non-growth, I don't know if it's 4 or 2, but at a certain point, it's defined as a recession.
Yeah, but we've had the pandemic for what, at least 2 years, almost 3 years now.
Yeah, so in March of 2020, they declared that the coronavirus outbreak was a pandemic, a global pandemic, not just a country or a region. That shut the economy down about 2 years. We're now in 2022, towards the end, and it's mostly out of people's minds for the most part where I live, but there are still cases and there are still people dying of it every day. I mean, you can look at the stats, and it's become a very politicized, very polarizing thing in the US, but the numbers show that we've had a lot of people die, and it doesn't matter what age they were, if they were fat and out of shape or not. A lot of people have died from this or from side effects from it. And it shut down the economy, basically. It didn't completely shut it down, but it affected it globally in a dramatic way, more than we've seen in our entire life by far. Even more than the real estate crash in 2008, right? It caused things to retract. It caused money to stop expanding at the same pace. So that was seen as a recession. And the nature of our system we live in is growth. It must grow, and it must increase products and services, or else it doesn't work well. Right? You know why that is? You know, but please tell everybody why that is.
I don't know. There's also surplus because of this need to grow the business. So
Why do we have to keep increasing the expansion of the money supply?
because we have to cope with inflation, with the thinning, the depreciation of the value of currency. So, and we have to cope
Okay.
with debt, because
Oh.
it's basically interest bearing debt. So we
Right, the D word,
So-
that's what I was getting at.
yeah. So that
How's our
is
money
the
debt?
yeah. Well,
How can our
because
money
so
be debt? It's money.
somewhere along the way, somebody rigged the system. Somebody did something really bad with the exchange or the reserve, for instance. When they shifted to this banknote, so to speak, instead of carrying this bulky, heavy, I don't know, gold, whatever coins, they developed a banking system. Like, yeah, we have a reserve here. Instead of carrying the money or the metals or whatever, you should carry around banknotes or receipts. So some guy who, I don't know which guy. Do you know which guy? Just did really something bad there, declaring, oh, hey, okay. So if the bank, or the receipt, you got $1, but it's not backed up in the same amount or in the same value by your gold or silver. Nobody knew, but it worked on trust, right? People
Mhm.
trusted banks, but banks are so scrupulous.
Yeah.
So they've been leading people out, right,
Mhm.
for centuries on it. And so small nations, they adapted this kind of system, kind of monetary system from, which is the biggest one, this United States,
Mhm.
sort of the standard kind of banking system or government bank tandem. And so when smaller nations borrow money from big nations, they basically adapt or become that kind of economy eventually. Because they use up or they they depreciate the value of their own currency because of the debt they incurred over the years. And now this fractional banking system, is that what it's called?
Reserve.
Fractional reserve banking system, um, basically spreads itself all over the world. I don't know. Is there like a bank or a government that hasn't yet become this kind of economy?
North Korea.
North Korea, they have their own.
I think
They
North
don't.
Korea is different.
They don't. They
Uh,
don't like borrow from big banks, big nations.
Um, I can't say for sure. Maybe from China. They're big friends with
So
China.
yeah. So but the nature really of money is that, or business in general is, it's magical, it's metaphysical. So it's founded on this idea of metaphysics, really. So just people can just, like I said earlier, jack up the value of something, and people think that the causality or the value of a certain good or service is so linearly limited. It's limited, so you can value that at this price or that price depending on the status of the world economy or whatever. But in physics terms, it's wrong. This, it takes the rest of the world to, like I would say, create a banana, but then a banana would just cost what, at some point maybe $1 or something. But at some point it's $2, whatever, depends on inflation rate or whatever. But in strict terms, just the banana itself owes its being or existence to the rest of the cosmos. And it's vice versa. So yeah, if somebody asked me why I would propose a moneyless society, then I would give a long-winded answer like that. The physics is there, and in physics, precision measurement is really impossible. So we don't what you call it, we don't have price tags for things, or for people. We don't have ownership because of the physics of things. There's no vacuum in between people and stuff. Yeah. Well, So Fresco would call it what, mechanistic?
Yeah. You're big on mechanistic ideas.
Yeah, because
What
that's
is,
that's the core of it. That's the core of it. That's the core of things. Nothing else. From there, proceed from there, and things will make sense.
yeah. He viewed everything as a mechanistic process, right?
Yeah.
He viewed things in terms of cause and effect, not meaning behind it, right?
And
If
of course, the likes of Ray Kurzweil also have had this to say about people. You know, we've been educated to think linearly. So
yeah, that's a big one.
so here linear thinking is all makes sense in a dualistic kind of understanding, or dualistic world, so to speak, where there's metaphysics and physics, you know, um, going hand in hand. And
Yeah,
that's where also consciousness could make sense. like, like Ray is so fond of consciousness also. But he also understands that linear thinking makes things, messes up our lives, basically. It has messed up society for a long time. But it's also the nature of our educational system. You know, if you break down um, infinity or things that are hard to understand in basic terms like lines and plane figures, and even three-dimensional concepts and ideas. So that's also problematic. If people don't progress from that kind of understanding, then it can cause problems also.
yeah. So what about linear thinking? What is important about that?
Well, it's a cornerstone of most people's understanding of the world. I mean, that's linear thinking, dualistic kind of understanding of the world. You know,
Mhm.
where you can have soul or the mind being metaphysical, you know, and constants. Basically, constants
Mhm.
can only make sense in a vacuous setup. So, and lines can make sense there in that the realm, you know, in the meta realm, meta levels, you know. But lines and plane figures and or entities are um, derivatives of infinity, or subsets, if you think, or derivatives of maybe 3D stuff. 3D as entities technically they don't exist. There are no entities, because entities supposedly are you view them as independent of the environment. They have their finite qualities. You know, there's no such thing as finite or individuals in the world. You're just all things um, eternally in touch. You know, yeah, but they're just my 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 the the limits of my body, like my skin serves as my encapsulation. This is a really convincing illusion that I'm somebody, that I'm someone, that I'm an an individual, an entity. When I'm surrounded by you know atoms of air or molecules of air people cannot see, or I even cannot see with my eyes unaided. So it's tricky.
What would Jacques say about, don't you have eyes so you can see?
Oh yeah, but with only eyes, can you see in the dark?
What would he say to someone who said, your eyes are there to see?
But can you see in the dark? See?
Of course you can't see in the dark.
Yeah, so you need what? You
So
need
what does that
lights.
mean?
You need light with photons. Can you move your eyes if you only had eyes? If the eyes don't have the nerves connected to your brain, or you don't have the nutrition, everything else, like I remember what's the name of this physicist? Feynman.
Who?
Richard Feynman.
Hmm.
I think when I like years ago when I don't know if it was from his Wikipedia entry that I found this letter he wrote about his father, that because he used to be like roaming around going to schools and evaluating the textbooks and all that. He had a terrible assessment or feedback about textbooks or about teachers teaching math or whatever. And he was like, he had this letter or an account of his experience with his father, because his father would bring him into the woods and they would have these strolls or walks, and basically was saying that his father was a big influence on him becoming a physicist or
Mhm.
a scientist, and he would say something like, um, so we live on Earth and depend on Earth for nutrition, etc., but Earth depends on the sun, and the sun depends on something else, and something else, and so yeah, and he sees things as atoms or or the um or things smaller than atoms that compose the atoms, or make up the atoms. So he views things that way, and or particles. So also Jacques Fresco was as fond of using the term particles. At least that's so I appreciate that about Feynman.
Mhm.
And he has a good grasp of how interconnected or interdependent the world is, or things are.
Yeah.
Although, of
He,
course, I find mathematical and scientific or physics language to be also dualistic, because there's a lot of dualistic terms there, here and there. Even the concepts they use when they try to explain cosmic or whatever phenomena, they're really, really metaphysical terms there. But see, that's just the way it is. You're stuck with this kind of language and mentality, and there's not so many people who are vocally and outspoken about their being mechanistic or really materialistic in their scientific view of the world. A communist would say, hey, there's like Marxist materialism or something, but I don't I don't find that really. I haven't heard or read or learned anything about Marx explaining his materialistic view of life. only fresco, only fresco can substantiate his mechanistic view. So that's pretty smart of him.
What do you mean by substantiate?
Or explain or explain his idea, his understanding of the world. Provide logical examples for explanation. So yeah, like the justice system is founded on this idea that people have free will, right? It's a messy kind of business.
Yeah,
So free will is also a product of this dualistic view or metaphysical view. Or I have approximate. Oh, that's Feynman, right?
yeah.
Approximate. Yeah. So we discussed this before.
I posted a quote from Feynman in the chat. That's what you're reading.
Yeah. So Feynman doesn't really go on a limb and say, I'm absolutely sure about something.
Yeah, here's
So
the quote. I'll just read it. I have approximate answers and possible beliefs and different degrees of certainty about different things, but I'm not absolutely sure about anything.
Yeah. I used to say that this is what's your position again? You're not a what's this? You're an agnostic, right?
Oh, with religion?
Truth and knowledge and stuff. It's still agnosticism.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I don't like to say I'm a certain thing, but if I had to define it, I'd say.
Yeah, knowledge is tentative. So.
Yeah, I mean, some people say that if an agnostic is an atheist without conviction.
But there are two kinds of agnostic. So.
Yeah, I'd say I'm agnostic, but
agnostic atheist, and there's also agnostic theists and gnostic atheists and gnostic theists. So
yeah, I'd say agnostic atheist is probably the most scientific viewpoint to have, because
yes,
it's something we can't know for sure. But what
then you reserve like a certain percentage for there being a God.
Well, there has to be, because you can't know that there's not, right? You can't prove the negative of a God.
Well, you have to be consistent with your agnosticism. So yeah, I'll give you that.
Right.
But see, the mechanistic view though, the implications that, or what it really says is that you really have to be absolutely in that kind of paradigm. There's no space for God, like what most people understand God to be. But on the other hand, when people have this misconception of God, it's also a given in that kind of paradigm, because it's a phenomenon of ignorance, and ignorance is as a phenomenon is justified as a behavior. So it's just a matter of perspective now. Now the differences in perspective is just justified, including ignorance. So because this is supposedly a shared experience, and I'm supposed to live through you vicariously. So my view of the world can't be complete. Uh, you know, but also, like, so the first stand is, you can also be absolutely sure though of, with respect to what most people define God to be, so by definition, and if your stance is mechanistic, then by definition you're an absolute atheist. So, but yeah, but in terms of really coming up with all the evidence that we need for to back up your stance, then it's kind of hard. It's the challenge, because we have infinity here as a challenge. So we can never go to every nook and cranny of the world to present the facts, right? Come up, get a hold of a specimen or something. So anyway,
Yeah.
yeah. So
It's-
can we skip to the part where there's this a whole new plan for cities in the future with dome-shaped houses, but not all structures are dome-shaped, right? In drop fresco's design.
Yeah, not all of them are. He's drawn and created models of buildings that are kind of angled, some that are tubular, like a half moon, but in a tube. All kinds of designs, but
Yeah.
none of them are just straight lines, like a house. Why is that?
And also, have you seen it? So there are also cone-shaped, like inverted cone type of structures, like
Mhm.
especially made for or specifically made for areas where there's what do you call it? Twisters, tornadoes, hurricane. In Florida, what
Yeah.
do you call it?
Tornadoes and hurricanes.
Tornadoes, hurricanes. So there's a reason for those structural shapes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But why wouldn't he make anything with straight lines?
Well, in terms of shape and structure, it's spheres, although they don't exist, perfect spheres don't really exist in nature. But supposedly they are sturdy, they're strong, of course, and they, like, when you try to break an egg in your fist like that, right? The shell spreads the force like evenly around it. More so when it's spherical, really, So the implication is that it's more structurally sound than when you have box type kind of structures or houses, when aerodynamically it's problematic, because when you have flat surfaces that the wind can bang against, so that structure can collapse under pressure, right? Under when
Yeah.
there's like a storm, or so in the case of the inverted cone in Florida, then it cannot be uprooted by the what's that again?
Tornado?
Tornado. Yeah.
You guys don't have the
cannot-
word tornado in Tagalog?
No, no, we don't have that here. I mean, like, there's ipo, and yeah, so there. But yeah, I don't. Do you call it also like a twister? So it's the
Yeah,
same thing.
that's a colloquial, like a slang term for
Yes.
tornado.
Okay. So
Twister, because it's
twister.
yeah,
It's going that way. So yeah.
it's twisting.
So it's hard. It's hard for tornadoes to uproot a structure like that. And at the tip of that inverted cone type of structure, he put like a motor or a dynamo kind of thing for refrigeration or for electricity. So when there's a blackout during storms, it can still survive. You know, it can still have frozen goods in the fridge. Still have lighting or air conditioning maybe. So he's really like a problem solver. So whatever he learned from, the scientific discoveries or the scientific learning he got, he applied it on the technology that would benefit mankind. So yeah. Even up to now, I mean, his designs, I think, are still futuristic, still advanced, way advanced in most things we buy. Although, of course, like I said before, if he had really the money, he could have created more useful things.
Say again.
If he just had, the money to create more useful things, he could have done that.
Yeah.
He's really prolific.
Yeah.
Can we okay, so are you gonna discuss more about, because he showed me like a picture of these dome houses before.
Yeah. There's a way you can actually.
Or was it like you were researching on 3D printed homes?
I have seen that, but what I'm mostly interested in is building
The dome.
concrete dome structures. Like if I could pick my ideal home, it'd be great to have, a traditional house too, I guess. But if you're gonna have something to live in through an apocalypse, what would you rather have? A traditional home or a concrete
bunker.
dome house?
A
Yeah.
bunker.
Well, a dome is basically a bunker above ground.
Yeah. Yes.
But you could also build a secret tunnel underground and build a little dome
Sure.
underneath that as a bunker too.
Yes.
Why not?
Yeah.
Over here in the
So,
US, we have,
like you have a sphere and then you bury a part of it.
say again?
You have a sphere structure and you bury like maybe half of it. So you still have.
Yeah, well, they have this company called Monolithic Dome Institute.
Yeah,
They
you
have
mentioned that.
all kinds of different floor plans, different designs for houses. Some of them are actually underground domes. Not completely underground, but they're like in the side of a hill where the roof it goes up to the hill, and then half or more of the house is underneath the dirt. So it's like built into the side of a hill. And they do great, they're almost the ideal structure for that if you want to do it, and it saves even more in energy, because if part of your house is underground, you're not subject to the temperatures outside so much,
Yeah.
where it gets hot and cold throughout the seasons.
But,
Underground, it stays
the-
constant.
The air conditioning system, that should cost you money too. Ventilation.
Well, it's a factor in all houses. You got to have ventilation.
Yeah.
And
And
unless you
do
want
they
to
have
live,
like solar or solar grid maybe or something? I mean,
they're not involved with solar directly, but if you have a house, you can choose to put it on there.
mhm.
Um,
So Fresco mentioned something like photovoltaic surface, like maybe the outside of for the dome could be something like that.
yeah. He talked about there being photovoltaic paints, which are something that are actually in the development stage right now. They're experimenting with them. I found a little bit of info on them, but it's not, I don't know if it's ready for the market right now yet, so to speak.
So you mentioned paints, right? Paints.
Yeah,
Wow.
you can, there's paints out there that are, they have little particles of photovoltaic metals or some materials in them, and then you paint it on the surface of a structure, and then you attach it to the electrical system, and in theory you can create energy out of it that way. It's a little fuzzy in my head right now as far as how many there are out there, but I have found them. And they're just real in the development stage yet. But it's not against physics, it is possible. And I have found definite startup companies that have photovoltaic glass, which uses a similar concept. They put photovoltaic material in the glass, so it has a slight tint to it, but they can put a small enough amount to where you don't even notice.
Mhm.
And that's perfect. A perfect application for that would be in large high-rise buildings, right? Because there's a lot more
Yeah.
glass surface than there is roof
Yeah.
surface.
Yeah.
And the sun is not always straight up above the building. It's moving from side to side throughout the day,
Yeah.
and a lot of that energy is hitting the glass, lighting up the building inside, but it's also potential energy you could capture. So even if you're only catching like 1% of it or 5% of it over that big of an area all day long, all you have to do is put battery storage inside the building, capture that energy, and when the sun goes down every day, you've got a storage of energy to use at night.
Yeah.
And that's how the whole world could work, but we don't have that system now. We're still in the old fossil fuel paradigm, right? But it's starting to shift.
Thanks to
I've
Tesla.
Yeah, Tesla is one of the major players in that field, because Elon Musk obviously recognizes the potential of that years ago, and his cousin, I believe, was the CEO of Solar City, which was a solar company.
Oh, okay.
And they were working as two separate entities where Solar City would install solar panels for Tesla customers and put in battery storage so that they could charge their cars with it and store energy for if there's a blackout or if something happens, or just to use at night, every night. So about 5 years ago, they merged Solar City into Tesla, and now Tesla has a energy division. It's one of their businesses, right? And they developed not only a solar panel product with battery storage, but they have the solar roof, which is the most innovative thing they do in energy, I think. And it integrates solar panels into the roof shingles of the house. So the roof becomes a solar panel.
When
And
you
the
say
roof-
shingles, they're curved, right?
No,
Are they not? Okay.
they're flat shingles like you'd
Flat.
have in a traditional house. Because these are
Okay.
going on traditional houses, they're not going on domes.
Okay.
So the roof has stronger shingles, and they're very I guess resilient, and they come in different designs. If you have like a Spanish style home, they have ones that look like that, or if you have just a progressive, like a modern day normal looking house, they have regular looking shingles for that, but they look cleaner. They're very, they make the roof and the whole house look better because they're not these things that are made out of a bunch of tar with sand glued to them. They're actually these strong sort of plexiglass looking shingles, but they're hiding solar photovoltaic material in them. And not all of them are solar, but a big part of them are solar, and they blend right in. And they last way longer because they're not made out of degradable material. They're made out of strong stuff that could withstand a rock hitting them. So photovoltaics can be put into lots of different things, and it's a very underdeveloped field, but it's going to be more and more relevant in the future. And it's already becoming more and more normal. There's states like California that are more progressive that require all new houses to have solar in them, built in. I don't know if that's the whole state, but I think it is. So the reason is because energy is abundant, and solar energy is, after you consider the cost of the equipment, after that, solar energy is literally free and almost unlimited. We would have to up our use of energy tens of thousands of times to use all of the energy hitting the planet for free every day. So energy will be free one day. It's almost inevitable. It'll either
Yeah,
be
but
free or
before-
so cheap that it will basically might as well be free.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
yeah. But before all of this, Nikola Tesla really wanted to gift the world with free energy.
Yeah, that was one of his visions, is give the world free energy, give back to humanity. And he saw all this potential. That's why he was so ahead of his time. He was an awesome inventor.
He wasn't into business. He was just into science and problem solving, helping.
Yeah, I've kept some good quotes from him that kind of illustrate his views, and they're much different than his competitors or his peers. Yeah, Thomas Edison.
But you notice Fresco speak so kindly of Edison, doesn't refer to him as some cutthroat businessman or something. He was also creative. He
was an
kind of an
inventor
innovator,
too.
also inventor. Yeah. So
He was just not a
refer
nice
to him
person.
as, yes, because he understood the behavior.
He was a businessman
I mean,
too.
Fresco understood where Edison was coming from. So,
Yeah.
but we can't keep this kind of system going, going like this. People are competing, killing each other for money, stuff. A whole host of problems arising from from people wanting fame, or people being ashamed of something.
You want to hear a quote
Yeah.
or two from Tesla?
Yeah.
Here, okay, here's one. I'll let you read it. How's that?
Okay.
Like our little end of show
Okay.
tradition here.
So which reminded me that I should be ordering that Speak Future book sometime soon, before the end of the year. Okay, here goes. When wireless.
I'll post a few of his.
Yeah. Nikola Tesla quote here. Wow, this is long.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. A quote by from Nikola Tesla in 1926. When wireless is perfectly applied, the whole Earth will be converted into a huge brain, which in fact it is. All things being particles of a real and rhythmic whole. Oh, there you go. I like that. We shall be able to communicate with one another instantly, irrespective of distance. Not only this, but through television and telephony, we shall see and hear one another as perfectly as though we were face to face, despite intervening distances of thousands of miles. And the instruments through which we shall be able to do this will be amazingly simple compared with our, wait, I lost. And the instruments through which we shall be able to do this will be amazingly simple compared with our present telephone. A man will be able to carry one in his vest pocket. This is his vision of a phone.
Yeah.
Cell phone, wireless. Did he start the Bluetooth technology, or just the wireless technology?
I'm pretty sure Bluetooth is probably based off of something he designed. He was the main innovator of wireless technology.
Wireless.
Yeah.
It's all about wireless.
As far as I understand.
And here's another quote. If we want to reduce poverty and misery, if we want to give to every deserving individual what is needed for a safe existence of an intelligent being, we want to provide more machinery, more power, more machinery, more power. Power is our mainstay, the primary source of our many-sided energies. Power. So he built that tower that basically would transmit waves of energy. That was his plan, right? But it was it like a his the power grid itself that would transmit wireless electricity?
I'm not sure.
Well, but many would call it the Tesla coil. Was that the term?
Yeah. There's another good one that kind of applies to what we've been talking about.
Nothing enters our minds or determines our actions, which is not directly or indirectly a response to stimuli beating upon our sense organs from without. Whoa, that's very, so Fresco is really familiar with Tesla quotes or Tesla ideas. And they sort of are on the same page with this.
Yeah, he's talking about environment.
Yes.
Nothing enters our minds or determines our actions, which is not directly or indirectly a response to stimuli beating upon our sense organs from without.
So the way that Fresco put it was that in a sentence, there's no free will. There's only reaction to stimuli.
Yeah.
That's how he put it.
Yeah, just because you think you made a decision freely doesn't mean that's true. We think we did. We think we woke up and said, I want pancakes instead of waffles.
Mhm.
I made that decision.
Mhm.
But do you remember that maybe someone said pancake last night? We're talking about some good pancakes that you might have forgotten that. And then woke up in the morning and said, I want pancakes this morning. I made that decision. Not necessarily.
And
you might have just in the back of your head, without even consciously being aware of it, actually thought of that, and that influenced your decision. I mean, how many times have you smelled something walking down the street and you're like, ooh, I want that. I want some chicken, you know.
yeah.
Ooh, that smells really good. I want
the
some
smell
French
of
fries.
broccoli or something.
Yeah, and all of a sudden you want to eat some French fries. Did you make that decision?
Beef.
No. You didn't decide you wanted that. You were influenced.
Yes. Yes. All the way, every time. All
Everything.
the time.
You're being influenced constantly,
Yes,
even when you're
but it's
sleeping.
always it's not just a two-way street. It's like every way street, like in all directions. Things are happening all at the same time, simultaneously, really. So that's why, this causation or causality thing is just so it's infinite, it's just hard to pin down all the factors that that determine behavior. It's still the variables are infinite. I was about to say something, I forgot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh, so our senses, like by default, they're not, we don't have X-ray vision, right? Or something, we don't have ESP or something, which is really non-existent. ESP is non-existent. But see, all the processes in our body, that contribute to how we move, how we think, everything, who also enable us to influence the outside world, whatever is outside our body. So we can't see them in real time. So we tend to think that we're making these decisions on our own, or the muscles moving our eyes from left to right, up and down. So we think we're doing this out of free will, like we can, it's so what. That's why it's also understandable that people think this way, because as I would put it, we are also by default, a sense perception is it poses this problem by default. So I forget the things that I would always say before. So anyway, yeah, we got this sense perception as our default handicap. That's what I would say. So yeah, sense perception or perception is limited.
Yeah.
But and so while our sense perception is limited, everything is extensional in nature. So like I said earlier, like my idea of the world can't be complete. So I could use your perception of the world to inform my knowledge, to add to my knowledge, to inform my assessment. So I can live through you like carries you also. So as an extensional guy, you can add, you can better me as a, for my betterment. You can share with me some valuable ideas, information, whatever. So that's just the way the world is. It's about extensionality. So yeah. So Jock would just want this to be more pronounced, or to make this obvious to people.
Mhm.
Apply it in technology and whatever, their minds, their thinking. So
Yes.
I think we've covered a lot today or tonight.
Yeah, that was a good one. We could talk more about domes later too.
Yes,
And about how you
great.
can build your own yourself to live in,
Wow.
and where ones have already been built as well around the world.
So you have like YouTube videos for that?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, so maybe we can continue where we left off on this video that I shared earlier, and then let's move to the dome videos.
Yeah.
And hopefully we can have John next week. Yeah.
John. Oh, John Tan. Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Whatever happened to him.
He has a family.
Oh yeah. Okay. All right.
He has kids. One day when we have him on too, I'd like to ask him about
Parenting.
things he's learned about his kids that relate to what we talk about.
Oh yeah.
Behavior. You know what I mean?
Behavior. Yeah, would you see yourself being a good parent? Like I would say it's really hard to like be fair to like maybe two kids, and they're of different ages and different wants and whatever, but you create the environment for them, for you to be able to control them more easily, right? and to
Yeah.
for you to make them behave in whatever way you want. Like, so
Yeah. I think parents would be much better parents if they had studied Jacques Fresco's ideas, for sure.
but in this society, parents should have stable jobs, stable income, and stuff like that. Otherwise, life would be a disaster for the kids. So that's the problem.
Well, that's only because of the pre-existing conditions of
Yes,
you have to have your needs met. If people's needs were met, then parents wouldn't have to spend all that time away from their kids at their job and stressing out and taking it out on their kids, stuff like
Yeah.
that. It'd be a much better environment. Just have your needs met. Solves millions of problems.
so it's a risk to really have to start a family in this kind of system.
Oh yeah. It's
Huge risk.
it's expensive. I mean, it's only become more expensive over the years, It just giving birth in a hospital can be like $10,000 or more. US
Whoa,
dollars.
whoa.
Yeah. Because remember, you got to go to the hospital. You got to have people all around you. You have to have a room and be hooked up to machines. You have to have all these things in line in case something goes wrong. Easy $10,000.
Like the question we should pose here, like why would you have kids? What for?
That's a good philosophical question we can talk about.
Is it next time?
Yeah.
Is it a philosophical question really, or a practical one?
It's a practical one, but is there a shortage of people in the world right now, would you say?
No, I don't think so. There's like a
Right.
surplus of wrongly educated people.
Yeah. We could probably go a number of years without anybody being born, and we'd have plenty of people still. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah,
It doesn't mean that the earth can only hold that amount of people. I also believe if we're living in a saner way, the world could support billions more people, because most of the earth, when you look at it, is uninhabited.
uninhabited. Yes,
It's actually wide
uncharted
open.
territory still.
Yeah, there's a lot of wide open area where
Like underwater, you
rural.
can live there.
yeah, cities in the sea,
Yeah. Observe marine life in their natural habitat.
Yeah, you could live in the
Their natural
forests, you could live
pasture.
in
Yeah, on top of
the
trees.
plains, you could live in cold regions, you could live all kinds of places, but most people are concentrated in cities. That's why it seems like the world is overpopulated.
Yes, it just seems
In
like
fact,
that.
before we go, in fact, about 10 years ago, we reached a threshold where over half the world now lives in cities,
Oh,
like within the border of cities, right? So I did some math on that, and I posted it on a Facebook discussion group, and I looked up the land space of cities and the land space of land on Earth, right?
mhm.
Because I was thinking of how much land is that for all those people, and we all know land is only about 30% of the planet, right?
Mhm.
So if you look at the planet as a whole, 30% of it is land, 70% of it is just ocean, right? Nobody's living in the ocean, basically. They're living along the shores of the ocean, but
Yes.
so we got 30% of the total space of land. How much are the cities then, right? Because if they're saying half the planet lives in cities now, how much of the land is based on these cities? It's about 4% of the land space.
4%
Right.
of 30%.
4% of 30% is
Yes.
now the home of over half the world's population.
Oh,
So think about that. It's only like 1.5 or 2% of the or the total space of the planet now has over half the people living in this.
And
like,
we're at
here's the planet.
How many
Go ahead.
billion are we now? Seven.
Over 7.5.
7.5.
So if this is the planet right here between my hands, we have over half of it living in like this much of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Financially, it makes sense because people live in the city because that's where things are happening,
Mm-hmm.
right? But logically, does that make sense as a
like,
natural species?
We are not prepared to live underwater. We are land-based
No.
animals, so
Yeah.
we could
But
use all the space there underwater sometime.
Imagine if we used 4% of the ocean space to live in, right?
Mhm.
The ocean is,
But the ocean is unforgiving, though. So
well, so is land in certain ways, but you could adapt
yeah,
to it.
but we're not
ocean-
we're not fish.
Right, but you could live on top of it, right?
Yes,
So-
for sure.
So we're living on 30% of the planet and we're compacting it into about 4% of that. Imagine if we lived on 4% of the ocean. The world would be wide open, you know, if half the people lived on 4% of the ocean. There'd be people spread out everywhere. And it would seem like there's not that many people around you. It would seem like, wow, it's so barren. I wish there was more people around, you know. But that wouldn't work in the financial world.
Of
It
course.
just wouldn't work. So I'm just explaining and giving you a perspective on how money has influenced everything in our lives, including nature. So anyway, that's probably a good note to close out on. I'm getting hungry.
Yeah,
Haven't had breakfast yet.
like 4% of the total space is causing all this problem that's affecting the whole space.
Yeah,
Can
it's
you
crazy.
imagine that? Crazy.
Yeah, and my numbers might be 1 or 2% off or whatever, but
Yeah, but
you get the idea.
yeah.
People
like,
are
it's just-
compacted into a small space.
and then they're
and-
creating this global problem.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, there you go. All right. So thanks for this great conversation once again. It's different every time. So although we are talking about same things also, but over and over, but it's different.
It's relevant stuff. I mean, it's good
Yes.
to talk about,
Yes. I mean, like,
especially if you're going to
it's
talk to
bound to
other
happen.
people.
yes, it's
Mhm.
bound to happen. It's also we're like reviewing stuff. It's refreshing for the memory.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
we-
we're not. Yeah, go ahead.
If we weren't so controlled by money, we could do our own podcast and talk about the stuff every week. You know, we
Yeah,
could do a lot of things, but we got jobs.
we can talk about anything.
Yeah, a podcast takes preparation, you know.
Even yeah, yes, for sure. Like even share with people what we're tinkering with right now, like some technology I've created, you know, let's see this. Something like
Yeah.
that, right? Like we do that on the fly and oh, I blew up a fuse.
Yeah. You could do a lot.
You know, a lot. It's just yeah, I mean like adulting is taking up so much of your time, my time.
Yeah. Money, it controls our lives.
It's a control tool, control mechanism.
Put it to work for you so you're controlling it and it's not controlling you.
Really.
Another
hopefully.
topic we can talk about with investing.
Yes.
So,
Oh,
yeah.
Right. So
Anyway.
hopefully by next year I could already start investing for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll
Like I
talk
have
more about
like
that.
small, really small investments now. But I'm just observing.
Yeah, I mean, you have to start small. You can't just get rich quick. That's not how it works.
Okay then. Hope to see you again, guys, next Sunday. Thank you, Cliff, for always
Mhm.
making this fun.
Thanks for putting it on.
So John, we miss you, John. Hopefully we can speak again next Sunday. And
Yeah.
all you guys live long and prosper.
Have a nice life.
Have a
Live
nice
long and
life.
prosper.
We extension
The
you all.
extension you all.